この雨がずっと止まなければいい。
え？
そしたらずっとここにいられる。
What up, people? Let's talk about Samurai Champloo, a show about swords, breakdancing, people, and purpose. It's a show considered a classic by many and is loved by even more. But what makes this show so special? Why is it still talked about today? Why am I still talking about it today, 20 years after it first aired? What stopped it from falling into obscurity, getting washed away by the endless sea of shows that came and went over the years? Alright, but before we do any of that, let's talk about what Champloo even means, because I know for a fact you have never heard about that word before. So Champloo is not a real word. It's derived from the Okinawan word Champloo, which means to mix or to make along as you go. And this one word pretty much sums up the idea behind Samurai Champloo. Now, remember this because it will be important later. In Samurai Champloo, we follow the journey of three questionable individuals, Fu, Mugen, and Jin. And I say questionable because they've got nothing in common. Matter of fact, the only thing they do have in common is they're all broken and unemployed. Let's talk about them. First, we have Fu, a 15-year-old waitress. And the thing about Fu is a lot of people don't like Fu. I don't get it, personally. People say she's annoying, but that's just part of her charm for me. Fu's an interesting character. Just one good look at her and you can tell she ain't no fighter, especially when you compare her to Jin or Mugen, seeing as she gets kidnapped a comical number of times. But what she lacks in fighting ability, she makes up emotionally. Fu's the bridge that links Jin and Mugen together. Without her, the character dynamics just aren't the same. We can always see what Fu's thinking, giving us more clarity into the state of the group. She's a sentimental person and shares similar feelings as the audience. Now what I mean by this is as the show is nearing its conclusion, Fu is very visibly distressed, because even though she wants nothing more than to find the Sunflower Samurai, she knows once they find him, their journey will be over, signifying the end of Jin, Mugen, and Fu's adventure, and possibly even their friendship. And the audience feel the same, because we don't want the show to end either. We want to see more of the three of them in bizarre situations. But alas, all good things need to come to an end eventually. And so Samurai Champloo teaches us it's about the journey, not the destination. God damn, that's cliche. But you know who isn't cliche? Mugen. This guy is on some shit for real. Mugen's a master swordsman. He grew up as a criminal on the Ryukyu Islands, a place described to be hell on earth. He stayed there until one of his partners betrayed him and left him for dead. But somehow he survived, and from then onwards, he wanders around aimlessly, with no set goal in mind, just simply existing. To be frank, Mugen doesn't really give a shit about anything except for bad bitches and killing people. And it shows. His hair's a mess, his clothes are tattered, and he probably smells like a bum. But his attitude is also reflected in his fighting style, fully relying on his instincts, completely unorthodox and unpredictable, busting out baller moves while kicking ass. But of course, baddies are his weakness. And to be honest, I understand. Remember what I said about the word Champloo? Well, Mugen is pretty much the essence of Champloo, with the way he mixes multiple traits into his fighting style, all the while relying on instinct, improvising every fight. And if Mugen represents Champloo in the title, then Jin represents the samurai in the title. Together, the two create the base of the show, as the story is mostly built on the dynamic between the two characters. So you put Jin and Mugen together, you get Samurai Champloo. Mind blown, baby. And Jin is the complete opposite of Mugen. He's a dignified, stoic, and honorable man. He grew up studying in a dojo, learning kendo in the way of the samurai. He was the top student there, but eventually he had to kill his master in self-defense because his master was a rat. But since his master was a renowned swordsman, killing him gave Jin notoriety as a master swordsman himself. So now without anything else to do, he roamed the lands aimlessly, looking for everything and nothing at the same time, much like Mugen. Jin's personality is also reflected in his looks and fighting style. He's clean, well-mannered, and dripped out. He fights with precision and dignity. Every slash is calculated with no wasted movements. Jin rarely speaks, giving the few times he does speak a lot more weight. He drops the occasional one-liner and moves on with his day, so he's a pretty badass guy. Moving on to the plot. The plot isn't really the main focus of Samurai Champloo. Most of the episodes don't actually have anything to do with the main plot at all because of the episodic nature of the show. That's not a bad thing. It works in the favor of Samurai Champloo because when we see Fu, Mugen, and Jin thrown into these wild-ass situations, it just makes you love them even more, making the inevitable conclusion of the show that much more heartbreaking. And I want to talk about two specific episodes which really stood out to me. But first, let's talk about the first episode of the show, in which our trio meet up for the first time. It starts out pretty simple. Fu is waitressing, as she does, until a bunch of thugs come in and start being assholes. Turns out they're not thugs, but rather the governor's son and his people. Flash forward, Mugen enters the store looking like a bum. asking for some dumplings in return for getting rid of the unwanted guests. Fu denies at first, obviously, until she spills some tea on the guy and has to be saved by Mugen. While all this is going on, Jin's outside slicing up the governor's people because they were bullying some guy. After concluding his business, he enters the shop and is attacked by Mugen. They fight for a bit until some random fodder commits arson on the shop, leading to Fu's unemployment and Mugen and Jin's imprisonment and execution date being set. Fu saves him and in return asks for the two to accompany her on her quest to find the samurai that smells of sunflowers. Reluctant at first, they eventually agree as they've got nothing better to do. And that marks the beginning of their little adventure, unbeknownst to either of the three how much of an impact they each will have on each other. So now that we've got that out the way, the episode I wanted to talk about first was episode 11, which is about Jin falling in love with the woman sold into prostitution. It's the heaviest episode of the show without a doubt, and it really catches you off guard because it's out of nowhere. Everything about this episode is masterfully done, from the writing itself, to the scene direction, to the dialogue, to the music choice, to the character interactions. It's all beautiful. This is the first time we see Jin show any kind of emotion. It's the first time we see him speak more than a few words, and the impact it has cannot be understated. The episode starts with Jin advising a woman not to jump off a bridge, mainly because it's not deep enough to end her. So right off the bat, we know this episode's gonna be a different tone. We then see Jin go to his part-time job, managing an eel stand, and since it's his first day, he sucks ass at it. Coincidentally, the woman from the beginning comes to buy an eel, but she ends up helping Jin run the stand the whole day. At the end of the day, she tells Jin this was her last day of freedom, and because of her husband's death, she'll start working at a brothel the next day. Meanwhile, Mugen delves into underground beetle wrestling rings, basically trying to gamble his way into wealth. Him and Fu both train the beetle, trying to make it stronger, and the sharp juxtaposition between the two situations they're in just does so much to enhance the scenes. The rest of the episode centers on Jin slowly falling in love with the woman, visiting her daily, getting his ass whooped, until he finally decides to set her free. In conclusion, 10 out of 10 episode. Now, the other episode that caught my attention, well, it's actually 2 episodes, but it's the same mini arc, so who cares, are episodes 20 and 21, which focuses on the gang meeting and befriending a blind singer who joins their group for a bit, traveling alongside them. Not only is the scenic and music direction in this episode just absolutely stunning, but the character writing is also on point. As the episode progresses, Sarah, the blind woman, reveals she has a young son and would like to see him, and she asks Fu to allow her to take either Mugen or Jin with her. This sparks mixed feelings in Fu, because she already knew that the end of their journey was near, but now she has to separate with one of her homies even earlier, which doesn't sit right with her. She realizes that as much as she wants to find the Sunflower Samurai, she wants to continue her journey with Mugen and Jin even more. But eventually, the time to separate comes, and Fu asks Jin to accompany Sarah, who without any second thoughts agrees, much to Fu's surprise. But as it turns out, Sarah was an assassin hired by the government to kill them, and the reason Jin agreed so easily was because he already knew she was out to kill them. The reveal was already awesome, but the build-up was what made it truly special. Sarah proceeds to outclass Jin in a fight, the first time we've seen anyone do so, leaving Jin with no choice but to destroy the bridge they're on, not knowing if he'll survive or not. Jin is saved by an old hermit living in the forest, who's got a chill vibe to him. He teaches Jin how to properly catch fish. Meanwhile, Mugen and Fu go to investigate as they see a commotion near the river and find Sarah lying unconscious and save her. Mugen was also aware about Sarah's plan to kill them, and so he gets up and boxes her, but he's also outclassed and gets an ass whooping. It's not until Jin returns and teaches Mugen how to catch a fish that he understands what to do. So Mugen sets out again to fight Sarah, but he gets his ass whooped again. The only difference being that Sarah lets herself get killed because she doesn't want to kill them, concluding the episode. Another 10 out of 10 masterpiece. The other episodes of the show are also great. Some focus on comedy, some are kinda creepy, some are fairly normal, and some I don't even know how to explain, but I'm not gonna delve into them because this isn't a summary of the entire show. One quick thing I want to talk about before moving on to the final point is how Samurai Champloo is not afraid to kill characters. This show kills a lot of characters and it catches you off guard every single time, because you're not used to that happening. Like, this show will build up a character, make you like them a lot, and then there comes a situation in which there's potential he can die, and you're thinking, there's no way this guy can die, we're probably gonna see him again, and then he just dies, and before you can even process that, you're on to the next episode, you're attached to another character, and then he dies too. It's insane and it's awesome at the same time. This is why the show is peak fiction. So, we've got memorable characters, great plots, and interesting themes to explore. And to be honest, that's all you need to have a good show. But what takes a show from being good to classic is the... Once you finish watching a show, you'll eventually forget everything about it. The only thing that sticks with you is the feeling you had while watching it. And it takes a couple of things to master the vibe of the show, with the most important being the animation and direction. The animation, aesthetic, and scene direction of Samurai Champloo is absolutely stunning. It still looks mesmerizing 20 years later. You can pause at any scene and it'll look like it's out of a damn painting. The choreography of fights and scenes in general are masterfully crafted. Every single movement is intricately taken into account. The fights are non-stop and buttery smooth. There aren't any internal monologues going on or flashbacks randomly taking place. You just watch the fights and take it all in. I can't stress how ahead of its time Samurai Champloo was. The fact that it still holds up today is just insane. Now, the elephant in the room when talking about Samurai Champloo is the soundtrack. I haven't addressed it so far on purpose, mostly because there's countless videos on the internet already deep-throating it, and quite frankly, I don't think I can bring anything new to the table. All you need to know is Samurai Champloo has one of the best soundtracks of all time. RIP to the GOAT Nuhabiz. I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. And when you combine all these separate attributes together, you get a banger show that'll stand the test of time for eternity. I talk more about the show, like the ending and the deeper meaning behind the story. But then this video will be like 3 hours long and a pain in the ass to edit, so I'll leave it at that. So that concludes the video. This video took me a while to make, I can't lie, but it was mostly a passion project, so I'm not worried about the time it took to make. All I'm glad is that I like it. I like how it ended up. And I will be uploading more and more soon because I'm really passionate about video making, to be honest. And if you want to see more of that, then make sure to show some love in the comments and subscribe and shit, because there's more coming soon. I might upload another video in December. I'm not sure on what though, so if you got any suggestions, please make sure to let me know and I'll try my best to make a video on that. And until next time, I guess, see ya.